The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Hello everybody and welcome back to On The Sidelines with Matt and my co-host Paul. Today we've got a very special show. It's not one of our normal live shows, but we do have a couple of guests on the show today. And we're going to be discussing Rayan, or Tauan, I think is how they pronounce it in Brazil. But Paul, over to you to introduce our first guest.
Yeah, exciting times for the channel, Matt. So pleased and really happy to introduce Peter Arnholdt from Brazil. There he is. Good evening, Peter, I believe. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening to me, and I think it's good morning to you.
Yeah, so what time is it there with you, Peter?
It's 5:30 in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, and it's 7:30 in the morning. I've had about 3 cups of coffee to wake me up, mate, so I'm flying here, which is brilliant. And I believe we've got 8:30 at night in England. Is that right, Matt?
That's correct, yes. So, a very special show today, obviously from three different corners of the world. But yes, it's a pleasure to have you on, Peter. But could you, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, a bit of your background, just so our viewers get to know a little bit about you?
Yeah, I was born in Copenhagen and lived there. For many years I was a youth coach there, and I had some kind of very good players, like you remember Brian the Beast, who played in England. I was his under 19 coach in B93, the club, and then I also worked with the kind of Copenhagen selection under 17 years old. So I have a lot of experience in training, but it was 13 years ago I moved to Brazil. I met my Brazilian wife here, 2011, and after a couple of years I moved to Brazil and I started to write about Brazilian football. I went to the stadium next to my place here. We have Mineirão, the big stadium in Belo Horizonte, where Brazil had the biggest defeat in football history, 7-1 to Germany. And I was on the stadium. I was just, it was so, how do you say, surrealistic?
Surreal.
Yeah, surreal.
Unreal.
Yeah. It's still, I sometimes wake up and I think it was just a bad dream, but it wasn't. It's real life. And I have a blog telling about Brazilian football. I write it in Danish. And I also do some kind of scouting whenever people, they want me to give a kind of evaluation of a player. Then I go out and watch him at the stadium.
You're a busy young man, Peter, by the sound of it.
Bitter.
Busy.
Yeah,
busy.
Busy, yeah. But I enjoy it. And when you have 2 children, you don't have 24 hours. It's not enough.
Yeah.
So no, thanks for telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you do. Can you tell us a little bit about the club? The name of the club I was just talking about.
Yeah, Vasco da Gama.
That's how you say it, isn't it?
Vasco da Gama. Yeah, whereabouts is that situated, Pete, in Brazil?
It is in Rio de Janeiro. It is one of the 4 big clubs in Rio, and it has Portuguese roots. Also, you can hear it from the name Vasco da Gama.
Yeah.
And they have some very passionate fans. the stadium is very old, and it's there's about place for 20,000 people on the stadium. I'm going there next Saturday. I'm going there with a group of Danish tourists, and we're going to watch a real derby, Vasco da Gama against Botafogo, on that small, intense stadium.
Is that game sold out, Peter?
Yeah, every game is a sellout with the Vasco da Gama. When they play in their small stadium, sometimes they also move to Maracanã, the big stage, as you know here in Rio. But
that's a much bigger stadium. That one.
Yeah, it has the capacity of 70,000 people, and this one is smaller, and it's very old. And I know some people who love to go to the stadium because the fans, they are so passionate. And one of my friends here in Brazil, he's Flamenguista. He likes the other big club in Rio, Flamengo, and he was there, and he said that I felt like they wouldn't stop singing. They could just stand there and sing until they die. He was very impressed with that, and he is about 40 years old. He has never been to the stadium because he's a Flamenguista, but he had some tourists and they wanted to go to the game, and he said okay, and he had this marvelous experience. That's what Rayan, he was brought up.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, in this club, in this environment.
Yeah, repeat the name of that club, Peter. What was it?
Vasco?
Yes, the other club you were saying.
Flamengo.
Oh, Flamengo. Right. Okay, that was what it was. I couldn't catch what you said there. Yeah, that's brilliant. And how much is a good ticket there at Vasco to buy? How much is the ticket?
Wow. Yeah, it's difficult to get tickets to the game. It's sell out every time, and if you're a member, you have the priority to buy. But I have some connections, so I can buy some tickets. And the game that we're going to is about 300 reais, our currency. And what is that? It's about 40 euro to watch a game.
That's not bad, is it?
No, it's much. It's a lot of money for a Brazilian.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
And do they do like a pre-match routine, and do they have a band and whatever before the game, Peter, or do they have a big build-up in that stadium?
Not inside the stadium. More in the surroundings.
Yes.
There's a lot of barbecue, people selling things outside. They have the big super shop where you can go inside and buy shirts, everything.
That would be great.
They have a lot of beers, and sometimes they stay out. Yeah, the thing is, the way when you couldn't buy beers inside the stadium, people, they were staying outside the stadium and drinking beer until 10 minutes before the game, and then they rushed into the stadium.
Wow.
Because they wanted to kind of they didn't want to go inside because they couldn't have any drink there, but now you can buy a beer inside.
Just I'll hand over to Matt to give you a couple of questions, Peter.
Yes. But first of all, and the reason why I turned the camera off is because I just had to quickly go and look for something, because when Peter said the name of the club, I used to play football with a guy and work with a guy from Brazil, and it was his team. And when he went home to visit family, he actually brought me a shirt back from Brazil.
Wow.
Do you know the biggest player from Flamengo?
Flamingo shirt. This is a Flamingo shirt, if I remember right.
Yeah, it is.
There you go, Paul. I've got a Flamingo shirt. Look.
Lovely.
And the reason why you put it back for me is because they wear red and black like Bournemouth.
I see. But they had some marvelous players. You remember Zico?
Yeah.
He's a legend in the club. And also they had the left back from the beautiful team from the World Cup 82, 86, Junior.
Oh, Junior, yeah.
He also played at the Flamengo.
I remember him.
It's a club with about 40 million supporters here in Brazil.
Really?
40 million.
40 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
That is something. You learn something new every day, don't you? I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that kind of figure there. But Peter, if I could ask you just to go on to the subject of Rayan or Rayan, is it how they say it?
Rayan.
As a player, currently, like his profile, would you see him as more as a winger or a number 9, or as kind of a hybrid forward? Because I've heard different accounts from different people, so I was just wondering what your views on him was in terms of his best position.
I think sometimes it's a shame you talk about best position, because football nowadays, it's a very dynamic play. And Rayan, he started playing on the right wing, playing with his left foot, where he can use his pace, his dribble, his left foot. But last year he played more in the middle, like a number 9. And what he did was interesting, because Vasco had a great top scorer called Vigetti. He's from Argentina, and he was the main player. He was the captain of the team, and Rayan, with his performances, he just pushed him out. He was moved from the right wing onto more the center, like a number 9, and Vigetti, he had to stay on the bench. So it was also with special coach Fernando Diniz. He is we call him a kind of a mini Guardiola, because he likes the play with a lot of possession, and he has another way of thinking, and where he has to be in superior numbers of players around the ball. So for him, it's not important that you have a guy on the right wing, because the ball is on the left side and you have to keep the field wide. No, sometimes you put them there and it could be maybe 7, 8 players in a small area where just playing around, and then suddenly they change direction. It was so intelligent play. And they had some very great players like Marcelo, who is he makes magic with the ball, and they were just playing this small pass, and with a lot of patience. And in the end, they came out on top, and they won the Copa Libertadores that year. And then make Diniz the national coach for some months. But the results were not good enough, so he was fired, and there was another chief coach, Dorival Jr., and then came Ancelotti, who is now in charge of
Brilliant. At Bournemouth, Peter, Andoni has played him on the left wing and on the right wing, but not as a centre forward at the moment. So where that will go, who knows? We have Evan Nilsson, plays at centre forward. You've heard of him, obviously.
Yeah, he was doing great at Fluminense.
Right. Yeah. He's that's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah,
Go, Maddie.
Evan Nilsson also had a good spell at Porto, didn't he? I believe, where he played in the Champions League. And that's where we brought him from last season for, I think was it 40 million now?
40, yeah.
paid out for him. So in terms of Evan Nilsson, how popular is Evan Nilsson in Brazil, Peter?
Yeah, I know he's been called up to the national team sometimes, but he's a little bit behind some of the others. Jean Pedro now at Chelsea, Mateus Cunha at United, but I know they are looking how he's performing, and unfortunately he's not performing as good as the other one. There's also Igor, who plays at Brentford. He's ahead of Ivan Nielsen. So yeah, he has to perform better.
Yeah.
I know he has potential. He has a lot of potential. And when he was playing at Porto, and his name came up many times when it was about to call up the best players for a Brazilian game. But yeah, let's see. It's not out of he could enter. Not for this World Cup, but yeah, it's 26 or something like that.
He had his best game last week with his hold-up plays, and his touch is just beautiful. Very, very Brazilian. He's just suffered with a lack of goals this year, but he wins penalties all the time. He got the penalty against Manchester United because I believe if Maguire hadn't have pulled him down, he would have scored for sure from that point. You may have seen the game. I mean, Matt was at that game. But is that a correct assessment of his play at the moment, Matt, do you think, Evan Nilsson?
Yeah, I think Evan Nilsson's hold-up play is always been very, very good. I think, he does. I think, where most people are critical of him is that he doesn't finish enough.
Yeah.
And as a striker, you're expected to score goals. But one of his strengths, just from a supporter, someone that watches him week in, week out, I think one of his strengths is his hold-up play and how he can bring others into the game.
Yeah.
How he creates that space for others, like Rayan and other wingers. We've got like Tavernier and David Brooks, players like that, who can get into that space and score goals. I just think that unfortunately, and Peter's right. With what Peter's said, he's got to, I think, improve definitely in terms of how many goals he gets.
Yeah.
I think, and you can see why, and the players that Peter's named, you can see why Evan Nilsson is quite far down the pecking order, because the striker at Brentford, forget his name, Peter Igor. He's a fantastic player. And you can see why he would be selected ahead of Evan Nilsson in some respects. But as a footballer, like you said, Paul, his touch, his hold-up play,
beautiful,
is fantastic. But watch this space. I think with Evan Nilsson, let's see. You never know. He might break back into that Brazilian squad. But I think he's got a lot of competition, isn't he? In that position. In terms of Rayan, if we can go back, Rayan, to him slightly for a moment. In terms of his game and how it translates into the European game, which kind of aspects of his game do you think translates into the European game a lot easier than other sort of strengths he may have?
Well, I'm surprised that his transition was so quickly, because normally you say it's about 6 months from Brazilian to get used to the play of style. In England, you don't have a lot of time on the ball. You will get opponents in front of you, so you need to know what will be your next move. If you just lose some pace, then you'll get tackled instantly. So his adjustment to the Premier League, I think, has been impressive, and that also shows his talent, because when you have different environments and people, they survive in this new environment, and they get better, also get better. I'm sure that Ryan, he's much better now than he was just 1 year ago, and that shows that he has a lot of capacity. Adjustment is not easy. You have also the culture thing, the language. There's a lot of things that can interfere in your play, but he has been focused, and he is doing a great job for Bournemouth. And
Yeah.
I think
Peter?
the best is yet to come.
Yeah, Peter, how is his English? Does he speak fluent English or broken English? Or
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he does. Some.
We have people at Bournemouth that will speak the same language to help him in our coaching staff and stuff. So I'm sure he's going to go on to great things. But but he's been very, very well accepted at Bournemouth as a player. We love him. We love him.
That's good to hear. That there's some players here in Brazil. They, before going abroad, they already know how to speak Spanish. They know how to speak English. If you look at Enrique I was at Lyon, but he's owned by Real Madrid. He knows English because he knows that his future was in the Premier League. He knows Spanish because he knew that he could go to Spain, and now he's by surprise he's in France, but he'll pick that up also very quickly because he's so intelligent and he's so focused, and that helps a lot when you're a young talent.
Yeah, I mean, one thing when we signed Tauan back in January, one thing that really surprised me was his physical profile. Now he's only 19, but he's so tall, he's so physically strong. How does he compare to other sort of Brazilian attackers of a similar age in terms of his physique and height?
He's better. When you when he was 15, he played with the under 17 team in Vasco. So he was already at that point physically very strong, and that's the thing they do here in Brazil. When you're physical strong, you get to play with an older category. So you can't just do your physical job and then do a lot of goals. You have to keep your technique sharp, and in that way his performance was very well. His planning at the club was very well. Also, he started with the professional team at 17 years, and that's also very early for a player. And of course, he had to adjust, but the physical matters is not a problem for him. He can improve his physics. He can get faster. He can get stronger, but his basics in these matters are very good.
Yeah, I'll just take you back. I don't know if you saw this headed goal for Bournemouth against Wolves, but you talk about physicality. The way he came in at the far post and scored that goal at Wolves. Wow, he would have knocked in. It was a brilliant header. And when he put the ball past Martinez against Villa, he's got a heck of a shot on him. He can hit the ball. Is that your experience of Rayan? He's got a really powerful shot. Is he left? He's left-footed, isn't he, Peter?
He's left-footed, but he can also use his right foot. It's not a problem when he's on the right side that he can dribble to the and do a cut back or deliver the ball into the area with his left foot. Or his right foot, but his left foot is surely the strongest one. But I had to say something about Fernando Diniz, his coach, because he's a coach who brings on big demands on his players. So even if you're a talented player and you don't do the development. You don't do the play that he wanted from you. He'll tell you, and that put pressure on a guy like Rayan. And fortunately, he has gone into this flow in his development. So I think it was very lucky that he had this coach in Vasco for the last, I think it was 8-9 months or something like that.
So, Peter, with your coaching experience, where would you play Rayan? What position would you start in on a Saturday?
On a Saturday, well,
if you were the boss, where would you play him?
Well, I would play him on the right wing.
Right.
Yeah, and with an attacking fullback, so he can cut into the area and use his left foot.
And that's how he scored. That's how he scored against Villa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he can't do things alone. Of course, he can also with his pace, he can also challenge, go to the back line and make a cross the ball. But I think he would look very good with an attacking fullback, Brazilian style.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah. No. No, it's great to hear this. I'm learning so much. I mean, this is brilliant. But can I just ask about sort of like if we go back sort of to when he was youth, sort of maybe growing up. But I mean, how competitive is the environment coming through the youth systems at Brazil at these clubs? Because obviously he made his debut at 17 in the first team, didn't he? But how competitive is it out there for players of that age to sort of break into these first teams?
Well, it's not easy because there's a lot of political issues in the Brazilian academies, and when there's a new president, he will choose another boss for the academy, and the new boss, he will bring on his own coaches, and the coaches will bring on their own players. So you have to be a survivor. It's not easy, and also the playing style sometimes change a lot. So yeah, it's not easy, but he's done it very well. I think he started at Vasco when he was about 6 or 7 years old. His mother and father, they worked at the club. Just some kind of basic job. I think his mother worked at the swimming area. I don't know if she was a swimming teacher or what she was, and his father, he was a kind of a helper and assistant at these clubs. They need a lot. So he was brought into Vasco and started to play futsal like every Brazilian kid, and did very well. And growing up, he played in better and better teams, and his talent was so big that he was moved up faster than other player in the degrees.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I mean, so his family have obviously been heavily involved in football and obviously by the sounds of it, other sports as well. But what we're going to do now is we've got a little video segment that's been sent in to us from Tauan Ambrosio, who works for goal.com, and he's given us some information and his thoughts on Rayan, and we'll have a little watch of that now.
Hello guys, thank you for the invite. Sorry my English, I'm not a natural English speaker, although that's an objective, so I can in the future bring more of Brazilian football history and, well, Brazilian football for English speakers. And without further ado, am I speaking right? Let me answer to you guys. Well, first question here. When did I first hear about Peter Rayan? That's the way we say his name in here. well, being a sports journalist in Brazil, and especially in Rio de Janeiro, you tend to hear more about these players quite early, particularly when they start getting called up to the more advanced youth national teams. That's usually when the hype begins to grow, begins to build, especially among fans of a club like Vasco da Gama. But I would say you really start paying attention to these players like Vitor Rayan when they break into the first team. And for Rayan, that was across 2023. How big is he in Brazil? Is he the player on everybody's lips? Well, not quite that level yet, if I'm honest. Brazilian football is packed with huge stars. We might not have the Ronaldos and Ronaldinhos anymore, but we still got players like Vinicius Júnior and Rodrigo. And they are the ones people talk about the most alongside the established stars of our 12 biggest clubs. And Neymar. Yeah, everybody talks about Neymar, especially in these few moments before the 26 World Cup. Rayan, though, he's definitely seen as one for the future. Yeah. And what's interesting is that his current performances are already drawing attention. What he's done at Vasco was quite huge. He almost helped them to win a Brazilian Cup, Copa do Brasil, which would be huge for Vasco da Gama. And now at Bournemouth, he hasn't gone unnoticed. Sorry, my voice. And yeah, there's the fact that he's just had a call up to the Brazilian national team in this last list of Carlo Ancelotti and before the final list, and that says a lot. His strongest position, out wide or as a striker? That's really interesting one. I would say as a striker because of the comparisons that people tends to make with him. But most of his game so far have come on the right wing, and he's been very effective, scoring goals, assisting and creating chances. But when he plays as a central striker, he actually scores more goals, and that's obvious. But the guy is doing his job, and I counted here 11 goals scored as a striker compared to 8 scored as a winger. Maybe it's an open field. Yeah, he's still very young. He's developing, but I think he would be better as a striker. And well, there's a curiosity here, an historical good one, and I love to bring history to people. Well, there's a curiosity here, an historical curiosity. I'm not comparing Rayan to Romário. They are very different, including the body type. You know, Romário's nickname was the short one, and Rayan is a tall player. But Romário started out wide playing for Vasco in the late 80s. That's why he wore the number 11 in the first place rather than the number 9. And yeah, he made history wearing the number 11 on the back of his shirt. I'm not saying Rayan will get close to that because Romário was huge, but that's a curiosity, and Romário was a player born in Vasco da Gama as well. But if I have to take a guess, I would say I prefer Rayan playing as a striker, as a central striker. How does his talent compare to other Brazilian superstars like Neymar, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and company? Yeah, we have few comparisons, right? People always love to make comparisons when they see a young player. Yeah. What can I say? I can bring to you an interview made by Gilberto. He played in Europe, and he was a couple of times he was called to the Brazilian national team. Now he's a former player, and he spoke to ESPN Brazil, and he said that Rayan reminds him of Adriano Imperador, or Adriano the Emperor, as they say in Italy, l'Imperatore. And I said Italy because I heard them, the Italians, comparing him to Edmundo as well. Edmundo, another of a long list of huge, talented attackers that made history for Vasco da Gama. Question number 5. How has Rayan's impact in the Premier League been felt in Brazil? Very positively. He arrived scoring goals, right? And that's impressive, because people always say that you have to sorry, my delay speaking this. It is loading, right? The English in here in my brain, but people always says it takes a time for every player to acclimatize to English football, to the intensity of the Premier League. And Rayan, he already presented himself as a Premier League player, and that caught everybody's eyes. Here, being a journalist and reading what journalists from abroad speaks and writes about him, yeah, it's important to see English pundits and media and people from English football spoken so well about a player that young. I would say that here in Brazil, a context, Brazil haven't really had nailed on number 9 in decades, right? The last one may have been Ronaldo. Adriano had his moments, but there's a vacant place, and well, everybody dreams of watching a great number 9 for the Brazilian national team. So let's see if this guy will be higher in the future. As I said, for now, I think he has to prove himself to be in that level, but there's a World Cup in the way, and Brazil has a historic examples of young players presenting themselves to the world in successful campaigns in the World Cup. Is AFC Bournemouth now well known in Brazil with Rayan and Evanilson both at the club? Yes, definitely more than before, because having Brazilian players always helps. It brings the club closer to the Brazilian audience. So, for fans that maybe didn't follow the Premier League that closely, Bournemouth is now a bit more on the radar. Or on the radar, yeah. Sorry. Can you see Rayan making the Brazil World Cup squad, or it is still early days? There's a chance. Well, he's been called up by Carlo Ancelotti in this latest list. But he'll need to make a real impression during this final international break before the squad is confirmed. It's one of those situations where the door is open, but he still has to walk through it. looking at his talents now, what kind of projection I have for his future. This is an interesting one, because some of Brazil's recent, let's put it, generational attacking talents haven't quite lived up to expectations, and I think Vinicius Junior is the only exception here. But with Rayan, well, I can see him having a very positive impact at Bournemouth. What the future, about the future, in the long-term future, I really don't know, because, as I said, those generational attacking talents haven't quite lived up to our huge expectations. But speaking about Bournemouth and what lies ahead in the near future, I think his goals and assists, and potentially down the line a very valuable transfer as well, can make him. Sorry, I go out of script in here. With Rayan, I can see him having a very positive impact at Bournemouth, with goals, assists, and even maybe a huge transfer fee. Another question: are there any facts about Rayan that I can say to you? I think one important thing is his connection with Vasco da Gama. It's one of Brazil's historic giants. We have here established 12 giants, and it's a club that produced a lot of top striker over the years. We have Romário, as I said before, Edmundo, Roberto Dinamite, which is the record goal scorer of the Brazilian Serie A. And Rayan has already made history in Vasco da Gama. Well, he didn't help them to win a trophy, but winning a trophy, it's a mission that's proven to be very difficult for Vasco in the last decades. But speaking about Rayan, he's both the youngest player to debut for them, for the first team of Vasco in this century, as well as the youngest to score for them. And how do I think Brazil will do at this year's World Cup? Yes, World Cup are always a bit chaotic, right? And the Brazilian cycle to 2026 were one of the worst of history. It's been quite messy. Ancelotti hasn't had much time to settle his squad, and is still deciding his squad, and we are months away from the kickoff. But even so, I think Brazil can win it, just because World Cups are chaotic. That's the only reason, the weight of the shirt, the history. We have players of quality. We have a great manager. Let's hope that this will help Brazil to win the Hexa, as we say in here, the 6th star. But if it don't win, we'll say that it was because all the cycle leading towards 2026, Brazil didn't deserve, because it was chaotic. Let's hope it does. Guys, thank you. It was an honor, especially to practice my English. It's a thing that I have to do because, as I said before, I want to be a voice of Brazilian football for you guys, bringing history. I love history of football, and as well as what's happening today and young Brazilian jewels, prospects, let's say. So, yeah. Thank you for the invite.
And thank you there to Tauan. His details to his blogs and stuff will be in the chat below and the description below for the video. But yeah, he is an editing specialist for goal.com. Peter, if we could just quickly ask a little bit about Bournemouth now, AFC Bournemouth Football Club itself. Obviously, we've got two Brazilians now that play for Bournemouth. Obviously, Evan Nilsson, who we've spoken about, and Rayan, who we're obviously talking mainly about on this show today. But have you seen any sort of presence of this football club in Brazil now, where we've got quite a, I believe from some figures Paul sent me, we seem to have had, is it 30,000 extra followers since Ryan has signed for Bournemouth, Paul?
Yeah, it was in that area, I think. It's an interesting question, that, because how do the Vasco fans feel? I mean, obviously, they would have been heartbroken when he left. Would that be right, Peter?
Yeah,
Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had it at Bournemouth with Antoine Semenyo. We didn't want him to go. It's football, isn't it? It's today's game.
Yeah.
And are they following his progress, do you believe, in Vasco with what he's doing in the Premier League?
Yeah, they're doing that. Also, there's a lot of groups, Vasco fans, various groups, where they also talk about what's happening to their players abroad. And of course, they're following Rayan and happy that he's on the national team. They will be playing. I think they're playing at this moment against France. I don't know if he is a starter, or I think he's on the bench. That would be the normal thing. But they are a lot. They feel like Rayan, he's one of their players.
Yes, quite. Yeah. Do you feel he will make an impact? Do you think he'll get in the final cut for the World Cup? In your opinion, Peter?
No.
Will he won't.
No, I'm afraid he won't. Well, who knows if he performs very well here against France and Croatia, then he'll be in for sure. But to get into the national side on a kind of a position as a winger, it's so difficult because Brazilian, you can say they lack some very good fullbacks nowadays, but they have loads of wingers with the international quality.
Interesting.
Yeah. But in terms of our football club, for example, is there a presence of our football club there now? Do you think AFC Bournemouth's becoming one of those Premier League sides that obviously not as well known as the elite clubs like United's and Man City's and Arsenal's and Liverpool's, but is Bournemouth starting to make a bit of a breakthrough into Brazil now? Now we've got the two players from the country.
Yeah, sure. They are following the Premier League, ESPN here, the Brazilian channel. They show a lot of game from England. So everybody is It's funny because in the older days you could only see Brazilian national team shirts on when you went out, and all clubs shirts. But nowadays you see the Spanish top clubs, the English clubs. I haven't seen a Bournemouth shirt yet, but well, it will come because the story of Bournemouth is so beautiful, and there's a lot of people who like this kind of clubs that makes an adventure, that manage to outsmart the bigger clubs. That's the thing here in Brazil. We talk about the malandro. Malandro, he's the clever, poor guy who kind of makes his way by being clever than the other ones. So it's a story that many Brazilians would like. But of course, you have to tell them this story. But it has great potential.
Yeah, no, definitely. And do you know much about the Bournemouth fairy tale? How we've raised through the divisions right to the top division from sort of the bottom tier of the football league. Is that quite well known out in Brazil?
Yeah, it is a story about Bournemouth. Also in Denmark, my place with the Billing. He played for for your team for some years, and now he's back in the Danish Superliga. He should have been on the Danish national side, but he was injured when they played against the Nottingham Forest in the EuroLeague. People they know a lot about the Bournemouth in Denmark.
Yeah, he was always one of my favourites. It broke my heart when he left. He can just turn a game. In 1 minute, he can change a game, that guy. He drifts in and out, and was always considered lazy, but you can see the quality in him. He can hit a ball, he can bend a ball. I've seen some brilliant stuff from him. Great. For me, it was a great shame he left. But Phil Billing, superb player, mate. Class player.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on him. But go back to Rayan. I was going to ask you one off the wall question. What do you know? What type of music he likes? Does he like Brazilian samba music, Brazil '66, or is he a rapper, or what is he? What is he?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but a lot of these Brazilian players, they love this rap music.
Do they?
With gangster alike.
Is that music? Is it, Pete? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No.
Well, my father, he didn't like my music, so what can I say? But there's also some popular Brazilian music. You know, everybody talks about samba music here in Brazil. It's football, samba, and beach, and but samba is not the most popular kind of music. There's another style of more like a cowboy style, country style, that is so popular. So you hear it everywhere. If you go into a bar, you will hear this kind of music, with the big guys with beards and cowboy hat, singing about the lost love and stuff like that, and of course some beautiful girls singing. Normally it's two girls singing beautiful music. I like that a lot. I don't like this funky stuff, but this sataneja, as it is called, I love it. It's it's easygoing music.
Thank you.
I'll send you some examples if you like.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice, because we're very musical. Normally on the Sidelines podcast, we normally have a little music segment. We connect music to football and things like that. So yeah, we're always very musical here as well, aren't we, Paul? Very into our music. But yeah, no, it's been a great been a great chat. Just to kind of round off, there's been some talk in the press already about Rayan, about clubs looking at him already in terms of the impact he's made at Bournemouth, and already he's been linked to some elite clubs. Now he's come out in our local press and he has actually said that he wants to be playing in the Europe competitions within the next 5 years. That's kind of his aim. And hopefully, he says, hopefully it will be with Bournemouth. Bournemouth do have the ambition to play European football. There's a 5-year plan for Bournemouth to make that. We're kind of halfway through that plan, maybe just over halfway through that plan now. But could you see him make that step to an elite club within 5 years or before 5 years? I mean, would you kind of predict that would be likely to happen?
Yeah, I would suppose that he will be playing at the national team in maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe as a starter. I'm not sure, and if he could do that for Bournemouth, that would be great. But also it depends on where Bournemouth is, because if he wants to have this European challenge, he has to. Yeah, if Bournemouth is playing Champions League, then he can stay. And if they're not, he has to go other places, to other clubs, unfortunately. But I see a lot of potential in him. But I must also warn that we have seen with some Brazilian players that when they are about 23, 24 years old, they just they lose their motivation because they have enough money, and they get other priorities in their life, and that's also what you can see with some of these great players, that they go to Europe and they become stars in a couple of years, and then they lose their focus, and they do stupid things, so to say. And some of these guys, they don't have the what you call it, the stamina to get on wanting to win. They want the other things. They want to live lives. They want to go out with their friends. They want to do other stuff like young guys they do. And yeah, who can blame them? So if you can keep it on track, he will be a world-class player in a couple of years, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Can I just ask Peter a very quick question?
You carry on.
Yeah, with the transfer fee, which will get up to 30 million eventually, how did Vasco feel about that fee? Were they happy with that transfer fee, or was there some talk that they wanted more? Or
well, I think there was a kind of a buyout clause, so they couldn't do anything. That also happened with Vinicius Junior. Buyout clause, Rodrigo. They put in this buyout clause and hope that of course it's a lot of money for a club like Vasco, but they also have ambitions, and they wanted to keep Rayan for a couple of more seasons, because it's very early that he left for Europe, I think. And the Brazilian league the Brazilian clubs are getting stronger in economically aspects. So I think in the future it'll be more difficult for British clubs to get these young talents. So I think the story about Neymar, he was here until he was 21 years old. So he had 3 years extra in Brazil, and he came to Barcelona as a more mature player. Unfortunately, he lost a little bit of this maturity in his time in Europe, and now he's trying to get his football back on track.
Thank you.
Thanks
for that, Peter. That's so interesting. Thank you.
Good stuff. I mean, bringing Neymar up, just very briefly, I was reading something the other day. I think Neymar was saying about how Messi was trying to convince him to stay at Barcelona because Neymar's ambition was to win the Ballon d'Or. And I think at the time he was linked to go into PSG, and I think Messi's advice was for him to stay at Barcelona and not move to PSG, because if he stays at Barcelona, he would have a much better chance of winning the Ballon d'Or. So yeah, it's interesting when you learn different things about players. I mean, is Neymar still very, very popular in Brazil, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a popular guy. For his talent, for his performance, but I think also they are a little bit what do you call it? They are a little bit they feel ashamed that he didn't do his potential, because now the story is that he played poker for 24 hours last week. So, he wasn't called in for the national team, but still he has to prove to Ancelotti that he is worth waiting for, because he will not be in his top form the next month, but he could be a very good player for Brazil during the World Cup. But I don't know if Ancelotti, he trusts him in this matter. And also being part of the group, that's not easy if you're the big star and you want to be the main player on the pitch, and you're on the bench. Well, it could be trouble for him to keep calm.
Yeah,
But very, very interesting, Peter. Very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And while we're on the subject of the World Cup, if we can finish up with a quick chat about the up and coming World Cup, and sort of any predictions maybe from yourself on maybe teams that may be successful at this coming World Cup, Peter. In terms of maybe let's look at, say, a couple of sides. So let's look at England, Brazil, and has Denmark qualified?
Yeah, I'm not sure they are playing right now. They're playing the first qualification game. I'm sorry, I just have to put on some lights.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they're playing qualification game, are they? Right.
Yeah, Macedonia. How do you say that?
Yes.
Northern Macedonia. So yeah, I'm not. So well.
There you are.
Yeah. Also, we have the ventilator. I have to put that off.
So, would you expect Denmark to get through the qualifying playoffs?
Yeah, I hope so, but I'm not sure. We have a lot of injuries. And Kasper Schmeichel, he's out now with for 1 year.
Is he? Is he?
Yeah, he had some problem with his shoulder.
Oh wow!
So he has done one operation this week, and he'll do another one later on, and he'll be out for 1 year. So maybe that's bye to the big Kasper Schmeichel. And also our defense is there's a lot of people injured. There's Anders Christensen at Barcelona. He is maybe our best player, central defender who loves to play the ball. And there's some. We have problem with injuries, but maybe we can win against Northern Macedonia, and then there's Ireland or what do you call it? Czech. The Czech in the final, Czech Republic in the final for the World Cup, and that will be an away game. But Denmark, they did very well in 21. We did poorly at the last World Cup, but I hope they can qualify. A summer without Denmark, watching games and at the World Cup, it's not the same. So we have a lot of expectations. Of course, I'm lucky. I can watch Brazil play, and also England. I like the English national team a lot, and I think there will be a lot of very good games in the US and Mexico and Canada. I'm looking forward for the tournament.
Yeah. So am I. I'm sure you are as well, aren't you, Paul? Looking forward to the World Cup. In terms of England, Peter, do you think it's time? It could be time under Tuchel that England bring home the World Cup, or is it going to be another year of hurt?
Sorry, Pete.
Yeah. Well,
we've got a very talented squad, haven't we? I mean, we do have a talented squad, but can Tuchel fine-tune them to win the World Cup, do you reckon?
England is among the favorites. They should be. And it's also about a World Cup. There's a lot of the knockout phase is very long. And if you get the team together and you don't get the fatigue, you don't get the stress of being away from home for so long time. If you could manage the heat under the World Cup, England can perform. I can't see why England can't be world champions like in '66. But of
I
course, there's
was
a lot of very good players.
Peter.
Very good teams.
13. I was 13 years of age the last time England won the World Cup, and I'm
Okay.
nearly. I'm really cracking on now, and it's been that long, but crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
But it was a marvelous team that they had at that time.
Bobby Moore, Bobby Charlton, just Alan Ball, Gordon Banks, probably one of the best keepers England have ever had. And I remember how they kicked Pele out of the World Cup. They just hacked into bits, and he was injured. They did it. They took him out. They took Pele out of the '66 World Cup, kicked him to bits. You remember?
Yeah, I didn't see that. My first World Cup was in 1970. The team with Pelé and Rivellino, Giazzini.
Fabulous. And the Gordon Banks save from the Gordon Banks save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know
Memory.
Pelé? He made a museum in Santos, in his old town, and it has 3 floors with only things from Pelé. But there's a space where he celebrates the save from Gordon Banks, and he also he wrote some remarkable words when Banks he passed away. He said that he was happy for that save because, of course, he lost a beautiful goal, but he won a friend forever. So they kept in touch after that, and there's a kind of a photo on the wall in this museum where you can see Gordon Banks make that save. If you go to Brazil, come to Santos and watch this museum. It's marvelous.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I mean, Bobby Moore and Pelé were great mates as well. They played in America together later on with Harry. Well, I think Harry Redknapp was around that time, but we're off the subject of our new signing. So I'll hand back to Matt. Peter's been an absolute. Now, I mean, I could talk World Cup history. It's beautiful, but memories.
Well, maybe we should do a World Cup history podcast at some point.
Wow.
That would be
great.
Well, that would be great, and that would be great to maybe invite Peter on for that as well. But final question: Brazil at the World Cup. They're very good. The fan base of Brazil are going to be very expectant, I suppose, this time round. I suppose they're going to want Brazil to do well. Peter, I suppose, is the vibe out there.
Well, they have a saying here in Brazil that a World Cup, you win it or you lose it. Even when you are in the final and you lose to France 3-0, you lost the World Cup. So they are very hard with their team, and some people they say this is not my national team, because they have this great. They're remembering the old times where Brazil was the best. They had the best players, the best national team, and they're longing for that, and they don't feel that this new team under Ancelotti or whoever at the last World Cup, Chichi, they are living up to this responsibility. So they are a little bit like, well, I hope they win, but I don't think they will win. So they, like the old days, they painted up the road to the Brazilian colors and stuff like that. They don't do that as much as in the older days. People, they say that Brazil was just almost standing still when Brazil was playing, when there was World Cup. And now they just like, oh, Brazil, they will play tomorrow. Okay, maybe I'll watch the game. And it's a shame. I really hope that this year they can go and win the World Cup, the first time since 2002, and we can get this football fever back. Another thing is that in the older days, you watched the national team players play here in Brazil. Now you watch for the Premier League, you watch for Serie A, La Liga. So they don't feel that they are their players. It's like that they're sure that the players have the priority of the clubs, and then, well, national duties, national team is something I do for some kind of marketing, but I'll not sweat for the jersey like I'll do for Bournemouth or for Real Madrid or for Barcelona. So they're a little bit. I hope we can get to a point of we can. What do you say? We can get back to the old standards of the Brazilian football.
Very difficult to hit that height, Pete.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Peter. You've been an absolute pleasure, and like Matt, I've learned so much. Listening to your knowledge, and obviously your experience has been brilliant. And thank you so much from myself in Australia, in Sydney, where soccer is considered a fourth-rate sport behind all the others. We've got cricket, we've got rugby league, we've got tennis, we've got golf, and then
Aussie rule.
And we get the women's bowls before the soccer if we're lucky. But it's that another story, another day about Australian soccer. But thank you so much, Pete. It's been an absolute pleasure and a gift to have you on our show. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure to talk to you also all the way down under. And hear your story also about the World Cup in '66.
Oh, yeah. I've got a lot in. I'm 73 nearly. I've got a lot in here, Pete. A lot logged away. But Matt is the brains behind this show, not me. So I'll hand back to Matt and go from there, Matty. And thank you once again. Phil Billing has to play.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. Love him. Yes. Go, Matty.
Yeah, you are a big Phil Bill fan, aren't you, Paul? You always have been.
I always have been. I recognise I reckon I can see the skill in that man. He is talented. Yeah.
He's a very talented player. Yeah. Very talented player. And it was great to have him at Bournemouth. But Pete, it's been fantastic to have you on. Like Paul said, we have learned so much. And we may have to try and get together again at some point and do a World Cup. Look back at the World Cup, because I'm sure there's be some great conversation about some old World Cup memories and things like that. So it'd definitely be great to invite you back on again. But for now, thank you very much for joining us.
How do you say goodbye in Portuguese, Peter?
Well, I would say até a próxima. That is like see you again. Till the next time. I prefer that.
Nice. Very nice.
And Matthew, thanks for the invitation. I really enjoyed being here with you. And
Pete, a World Cup chat would be great. Different opinions would be lovely. Because on my heart, I'm still English, but I live in Australia 40 years. So there you go. We'll definitely maybe arrange something for the nearer to the World Cup. It'd be great to do it. But until the next time, from myself and Paul on the sidelines, we'll be back next weekend. And a big thank you to our guest Peter for joining us this week. It's been a privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.